I'd like to welcome you to the 5th Annual Clean Energy and Education and Empowerment Awards and Symposium. C3E, as we call it, honors and nurtures women in clean energy as an initiative of the Clean Energy Ministerial, which was launched in 2010 and will be meeting right after this in San Francisco. The Clean Energy Ministerial is a forum of ministers from the world's largest and most forward-leaning countries working together to accelerate the global transition to clean energy. Together, the 23 countries and the European Commission account for about 90% of the world's clean energy investment and 75% of its greenhouse gas emissions. With the energy sector worldwide representing 2/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions, the Clean Energy Ministerial and its mission to accelerate the global transition to clean energy is more important than ever. The C3E initiative was born out of recognition that the ideas and talents of all members of society are essential to meeting our future energy challenges. Closing the gender gap and increasing women's participation and leadership in these fields are the goal of the C3E program. This year, our theme is the role of women internationally in decarbonizing our energy future, and it's hosted by the Department of Energy, Stanford Precourt Institute for Energy, and the MIT Energy Initiative. So today we have a wonderful agenda for you, and in addition, we'll be celebrating outstanding leadership and extraordinary achievements of 8 mid-career women working to advance clean energy, and we have 1 lifetime achievement honoree. So we've got a terrific plan lined up. Just a few logistics. So we are video recording and live streaming today's conference, and if you have any interest in participating in social media, in your package there's information that you can use to address that. So I'd like to spend just a few minutes setting the stage for this wonderful symposium. And I think the reason that we're all here is that we recognize that we can't have sustainable development if we don't have sustainable energy, as Gro Brundtland, Norway's first female prime minister, once said. And when we think about the global climate and energy challenge, we need to think about energy access, because we know today there are still billions of people lacking access to electricity and cooking with unsafe cooking fuels that emit pollution that is very damaging to both women and children in particular. It's also important that our energy system be affordable, because in many ways it's at the heart of the economic engine that drives prosperity and growth around the world. We need an energy system that's predictable, competitive, resilient, and profitable. Yes, profitable too. National security also has very important intersection with industry. We need to make sure that we have a secure energy supply so that countries can keep their interests at heart. And finally, and I think really the urgency of this is driven by making sure we have an energy system that's protective of the environment. Air quality, many parts of the developing world suffer from absolutely unhealthy, unsafe, and really intolerable air pollution. And of course, climate change is the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room. Also, though, there are important issues with water resources and protecting our precious ecosystems. So as we look forward over this coming century, we need to bear in mind, we need to step back and consider that we're going to have 11 billion people by the end of this century, most likely. And if you look at how much energy we need, you can make a simple calculation which to suggest to meet the needs of all of these people, we're likely to need 2 times as much energy to provide everyone with the access that will provide them safe, comfortable, and productive lives. So really the grand challenge of this century is, where do we get all this energy from? How can we get it without damaging the planetary support systems that we rely on? Healthy ecosystems, clean water, clean air, and a stable climate. So the good news is that over the past decade, it's become clear that we have abundant renewable energy resources that can provide clean power, and they're distributed broadly around the world. So that's the good news. The challenge is that the energy system we have today is largely reliant on fossil fuels. The consequence is, of course, that when we burn these fossil fuels, we emit carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And if we look at this chart, we see the daunting challenge that we face, that year over year, CO2 emissions continue to rise as we increase the use of fossil fuels. I think the most challenging and really frightening aspect of this is that if we look at how much CO2 we can emit into the atmosphere and how much we already have, time is very, very short to solve this problem. So we had a historic agreement amongst all countries in the world, really, at COP21 in Paris. And INDCs were developed for all of these countries. And we came to the agreement that through the studies of the IPCC that there's a cap on emissions, the cumulative emissions from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution of about 2,900 gigatons of carbon dioxide. And if we look at how many of those 2,900 tons we've already emitted, we're about 1,890 gigatons of carbon dioxide. So for the rest of the time, for all time in the foreseeable future, we only have about 1,010 gigatons left. So if we look at the commitments that were made as part of COP21, if we look out to 2025, the commitments to future emissions associated with that are about 542 gigatons. And if we continue to emit carbon dioxide into the atmosphere at the rates we were emitting in 2010, we only have 12 years after 2025. So basically, by the end of the 2030s, we are already committed to a 2 degrees C climate temperature increase. Similarly, if we look out to the commitments to 2030, we only have 7 years left. So this is an absolutely urgent situation, which brings me to a strategy that we talk about here at Stanford University. Sometimes it's called a portfolio strategy, sometimes it's called all of the above. But what we need to do is we need to systematically work away with all the tools that are available to deal with this problem. In developed economies, we need to conserve much more energy. Across the global economy, we need to become much more efficient. We need to switch to renewable energy as fast and quickly as we can. We need to switch from coal to natural gas because in the short run, that can have a big benefit in terms of pollution reduction, as well as about halving the amount of CO2 emissions associated with those uses. We need to employ carbon dioxide capture and storage where there's not a good option to replace fossil fuels or to grow the energy system. And finally, nuclear plays a very important role as a zero-emitting baseload power generation. And very importantly here in this academic system, we need to think about new technologies, innovations, continued to be able to achieve the 80% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions needed in just a short while. And really, we need to be thinking about getting to zero. So it's not just about technology, though. There are important issues with regard to developing and enabling infrastructure. In the developed countries, this is typically would require a modernization of the electrical grid to make it much more capable of dealing with intermittent renewables and to make loads flexible, as well as having flexible generation. In the developing world, we need to build out the first time ever grids that provide access to power for those who don't have it. We also need to develop technological and energy systems assessment tools because, again, this is a century-long problem, and we need to figure out how do we make good choices now where simply how much something costs today might not be the best indicator of how useful and important it will be in the future. Energy policy and finance is incredibly important. Most of the new technologies that are being introduced need a little boost at the beginning, and we've seen that wind energy and solar energy have benefited tremendously from that little boost, and now the cost of those are often either the low-cost provider or certainly very competitive with the fossil fuel alternatives. And then finally, at the end of the day, behavior and public opinion are important. This is an issue that can't be solved with our minds. We also need a change of heart to make the decision to commit to a clean energy future. And again, time is short. We need a portfolio of solutions. We need everyone to contribute. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited to be in the room today with all of you, because our contributions are crucial to making this successful. And we need innovation, not just technology, policy and finance as well. So I just want to give you very briefly a sense of where you are. You're at Stanford University. I don't think there's any more exciting and compelling thing for anybody to be involved in. Huge interest on the part of the students. We have over 200 faculty working in all 7 of our schools on all of these issues. And I would like to just briefly highlight our rock star women in energy here. So if we look at the women scholars in energy, in clean energy at Stanford, here are 28 leading contributors to the endeavor here at Stanford. And then finally, we're in Silicon Valley, and entrepreneurship sort of runs through our veins. And we have many companies, large companies and startup companies that are right here in the Valley and actually all around the world that are playing a crucial role in the evolution of the availability and accessibility of affordable, profitable, clean energy. And I'd just like to end with one thought. So this is not just about research and what other people can do. We also need to think about what we can do at all of our institutions. And I'll say I'm incredibly proud to be part of this community where the university made a very costly decision to shut down our long-term cogen plant and replace that with an entirely new energy system that allowed us extremely efficient heating and cooling, 70% improvement in the amount of energy for heating. We've now committed by 2017, 53% of all the electricity we use here on campus will be from solar photovoltaics. And as a combination of these measures together with many other actions, we'll achieve a 68% reduction in campus-wide CO2 emissions by 2017. And importantly, this decision, this set of projects has allowed us to also cut back significantly on water use. So I hope that you enjoy a little bit of the Stanford environment. We have many Stanford students and faculty and staff in the audience, so please take a chance to talk with them. And finally, I would just like to end by thanking our sponsors. They're listed here. We could not hold this conference without their support. When we began this process, it was a big mountain to climb to be able to pull together the resources to accomplish this. And all of these people have stepped up in such a generous way to support not only this year's conference, but next year's as well as the support for the awardees. So thank you very much for that. So we need to move on now.